leased it for 20 years. And the civil servant said, oh, you'll only get about £5-6 billion if you lease it. They did it by auction. An auction on the theories of William Vickrey, who I mentioned earlier, was a land value taxer, but he was also a Nobel Prize winner, and he developed the theory of auctions. And so they used that to auction the spectrum. And they got £22.4 billion for the spectrum. And the beauty is that in 20 years' time, assuming the technology still needs the spectrum, and technology might change, 20 years after they did it in 2000. So in the year 2020, it comes up for re-auction. And my grandchildren can get the benefit of the spectrum in 2020. Now, Belgrano in Argentina in 1812, in February 1812, when he made the Argentinian flag, he might have tried to sell the spectrum, but he wouldn't have got a penny for it. He wouldn't have got a fraction of a peso for it, because there was no demand from the technology for the spectrum. But it existed. Belgrano could see red and he could see blue, but there was no technology needing it. Who knows what technology in the future is going to need what Mother Nature supplies that we can't even envisage sitting here today. We can't even guess. But what I don't need to guess, I know that if there's some way for a greedy capitalist or a greedy rentier to capture that for themselves, they will do so unless we are awake and aware and prevent it happening.
Sí.
Tiene la palabra el presidente. Me ha pedido la palabra.
Quiero pedirle a Dave Wetzel una aclaración que creo que es muy importante para todos, para todo el mundo latino en realidad, porque hay dos formas de gravar el valor de la tierra. Una es gravar el valor capital del suelo, que es lo que se hace normalmente en Argentina, en España y en muchos países latinos, y otra forma que es gravar el valor de renta anual, que es a lo que se refiere Dave Wetzel cuando habla de Land Value Taxation. Entonces yo le pediría a Dave Wetzel que explique la diferencia de estos dos sistemas y por qué conviene más gravar el valor de renta anual y qué es lo que es.
Yeah, we're getting into a detail now. This is like the religious people arguing about how many angels can sit on a pinhead. Let me start with a story. You may have read the book written by Daniel Defoe called Robinson Crusoe. In my version, with apologies to Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe is on a boat and it sinks. He swims to the island. In my version, he meets Man Friday on the beach. And Man Friday says, I'm pleased to see you. I've been on this island 4 years on my own. It's going to be nice to have somebody to have company. But I must tell you, while I've been on this island, I've not been idle. I have been busy. I created a parliament. And as I'm the only voter, I elected myself as the MP. And as I was the only MP, I elected myself Prime Minister. And we passed a law that I own all of this island. And I created a legal system, and I am the head judge, and a police system, and I am the commissioner of police. So we enforce the law. Every morning, I go hunting in my forest. I go for 4 hours. At the end of 4 hours, I come home with 1 rabbit. And I cook the rabbit over a fire, and it feeds me for 24 hours. The next day, I have to get up and go hunting again for 4 hours, and I get another rabbit, and I do this every day. Now, you, Robinson Crusoe, if you want to stay on my island, you're welcome to do so, and I will give you permission to go hunting in my forest every day for 8 hours, so that then you will come home with 2 rabbits, and you will keep 1 rabbit, and you will give me the other rabbit. And Robinson Crusoe says, but that's not fair. I'm doing all the work. I'm going to go out hunting with my bare hands all day long. 2 rabbits after 8 hours, and you're going to have 1, I'll have 1. All day you'll be on the beach, you'll be swimming, you'll be looking at the trees and the flowers while I'm working. That's not fair. Man Friday says, you have a choice. We have no slaves on this island. Every person on this island is a free person. And your choice is you can stay on the island and meet my terms, or you can go back to your boat. Well, of course, the boat is at the bottom of the sea. He has no choice. In England, we call it Hobson's choice. No choice. He stays. And for 3 months, every day, he's gone hunting with his bare hands. Every night, 2 rabbits, 1 each. And at the end of 3 months, he's sitting in front of his fire, cooking his rabbit. He thinks, I can do better than this. I can create capital. Remember, capital is man-made wealth being used to produce more wealth. So the next day, he goes off into the forest, and he doesn't hunt. He looks first of all on the ground for a very sharp stone, and after a few hours he finds one. And then he looks up in the trees and he looks for a very straight branch growing on a tree, and when he finds one, after a few hours, he hacks it down with the stone. He gets rid of all the twigs and all the leaves on the branch. He puts a sharp point using the stone at one end, and he puts some goose feathers the other end. He now has a spear. He has capital. So the following morning he's up bright and early, out into the forest with his spear. It takes him a couple of hours to get used to using the spear to catch rabbits, but eventually he gets the knack of it, and he comes home with 21 rabbits after 8 hours hunting with his capital. And he gives 1 to Man Friday, and he's got a pile of 20 rabbits and a grin from ear to ear, sitting there satisfied with himself. And Man Friday says, wow, you're a clever bloke, Robinson Crusoe. You're cleverer than me. I've been here 4 years and 3 months. I never thought of creating capital. But I've got some bad news for you. Your rent has just gone up to 20 rabbits. And that is economic rent. What we pay the landowner for permission to work on the planet that God or Mother Nature has provided for us. So now the question arises. If we want to collect the rent for public purposes? Do we want to collect it every year on what the rental value is? Of course, rabbits aren't really rabbits in my story. They are wealth. But it's a difficult story if I say it's 100 peso notes. But imagine it was 20 pesos that Robinson Crusoe has to pay because of his improved the productivity of the land. And he pays 20 pesos rent to Man Friday. And a third person comes to the island and Man Friday wants to leave. Man Friday wants to sell his ownership of the island to the third person. The third person might offer 20 pesos. But Man Friday would say, no, that's only 1 year's rent. Robinson Crusoe will give you 20 pesos this year. He'll give you 20 next year, 20 the year after, whatever. Oh, it's annual now. I've mixed things up. So he says to him, I want 20 years rent in advance. I want 20 pesos times 20 pesos. I want 400 pesos. That is the capital sum of land. And that's what landowners do today. If a landowner owns a piece of land, which is today in Buenos Aires worth 1 million pesos, and he wants to sell it, he won't sell it for 1 million pesos. He'll sell it for between 10 and 20 million pesos, between 10 and 20 years rent paid up front. Now, if we charge a land value tax, better to charge the rent on 1 million pesos annually than on the sorry, I've forgotten the numbers I was making, but let's say 1 million pesos a year and 20 million pesos lump sum to buy the land. It is better to use the 1 million pesos for your figure, because that exists. Irrespective of the tax, every year that piece of land will produce 1 million pesos. If you put it onto the capital sum, onto the 20 million pesos, and you introduce a land tax of, say, 50%, 1/2, somebody wanting to buy the land after the land value tax won't pay 20 million for the land, because what they're getting is 1 million pesos, but half of that they give to the government as a land tax. So they're now only left with 500,000. That is their tax-free benefit. And if they want to purchase that, multiply that by 20 and you've only got 10 million pesos. And so the capital sum gets lower with the higher the land value tax. However, the 1 million pesos every year doesn't get lower, it just gets shared differently. So I argue strongly, we don't want the tax base to be the lump sum, what it would buy and sell for. Let's have it what it produces. It produces 1 million pesos. If we have a tax of 50%, then we get 500,000 pesos. If we have a tax of 90%, we collect 900,000 pesos. Far better to do it on the revenue that the land produces each year than on the lump sum.